Good morning, everybody. It's 10:05. We are starting this webinar. Before we start, please note that this session is being recorded, so will be made available on our EMA corporate website and on YouTube as well. So the session will be recorded and you will be able to ask questions via Slido. You can find our data privacy statement here. My name is Carlo De Vittoria. I work here at the EMA in the Information Security Service. I will stop sharing my camera now just to make sure that the connection and everything is good. So as we said, you can scan the QR code to join in Slido. We are going to try to answer as much questions as we can. We will not be able to answer all the questions. Please note that during this webinar, we will have a limited number of colleagues available to answer questions. So if we have questions that are related to other topic, we'll try our best to answer them. But if we don't have the relevant colleague to answer them, we will try to answer them after the webinar. Depending on the volume of question, of course, we are time limited, so there could be the chance that not all the questions will be answered. If you think that a question is relevant, upvote the question, so we will start from the questions with more votes because those are the ones that should be relevant for most of the participants. So this presentation is already available on our webpage. If we will do any change, we will update the presentation and will made available also in the SPOR portal document section. And this recording will be made available also on our website and our EMA YouTube channel. So let's start. This is one of the last webinars of this series. So I hope you still have a high attention to this. It's always a nice topic to talk about. And we will try to finish at noon. We will go through an introduction. Then we will show the different features that the platform EMA Account Management is offering to the different users and stakeholders. We will give a glance at what is coming next, and then we will have a closing. Please try to stay for the full webinar because at the end we will also ask your opinion about this specific webinar. So during the introduction, we want to show you how the platform works, what are their main features that the platform is offering, but at the same time we want to give an overview of the specific tips and tricks that you can use on the platform. We learn from the experience and we can advise you on the most common mistakes or most common success stories that we see when using the platform. The EMA Account Management platform is the first gate that most of the users need to use when they interact with the EMA. As this is a gateway for other EMA applications, we want to make sure that this platform is secure, but is also easy and simple to use. And finding this balance between security and usability is our vision. So we want to make sure that our stakeholders are able to work together with the agency in a secure and user-friendly way. So what the platform is offering? First of all, the platform allows you to get an EMA account. And this is done through what we call self-registration. Of course, when you create an account, you will get a username and a password. So the password also offers the possibility to recover them. After you get an account, then you are able to get access to other applications like SPOR, OMS, CTIS, and other type of application. So this is done via a request access feature. And we will see that the first thing to do is always to appoint what we call a user administrator. And after that person is available for an organization, further access can be requested. We'll see that through the password, you can approve access if you are a user administrator, but also remove access and list and manage all the users of the organization that you are responsible for. Of course, when you get an account, then you are able to consume other EMA services. And to log in into EMA platform, we have different ways of authenticating. So we will see how also we can set up multi-factor authentication. And last but not least, how to log out from EMA systems. We know that the platform has been around for a few years now, and we always try to monitor what is the feedback from the different stakeholders. We do this through webinars, through questions, and also by analyzing the different tickets that we receive in our support platform. So in the past, we have seen that we have a lot of rules, and those were unclear, that the process to request the first user for an organization was not driven by the platform, so it was not clear when mandatory documents were required. And also the waiting time for approval, it was not acceptable. And in order to set up the access to different platforms, multiple logins were required even before starting using these services. So in the past, we have tried, and we will still invest on key changes to allow the different platforms that are supporting the registration process to work together. What we did is we revamped the access request to have a better organization search, to allow to select multiple organizations in the same request, and to have a clear and driven role selection process where users are guided by the platform in order to get the access they need. As we said, the first step is always to get an EMA account. So how does it work? First of all, you have an EMA account if you are already using one of the EMA systems. So if you are using CTIS, UdraCT, UdraLink, SPORE, if you access meetings or you contribute to pharmacovigilance via the UdraVigilance systems, then you already have an EMA account. But if you don't have one, then you can access the self-registration form, where you will need to provide a few details like your name, surname, and email address, and you will need to pass a CAPTCHA to make sure that you are not a bot. We will also verify that the email address that you provided is valid by sending you a code on the email address. And this is the last step of the registration. But what happens if your email is already in use? It means that you already have an EMA account. So for this, we also have a forgot username functionality where you can put your email address and the system will send you by email a reminder with your user ID. When you create an EMA account, you are getting basic access to different applications like the service desk. You can access OMS and CTIS. So if you are not using our platform frequently, probably one of the things that you will forget is your password. And this can be recovered easily using the forgot password link. So when you use the forgot password link, always remember that you need to put your username here and not your email address. After you put your username, a token will be sent to your email address, and then you will need to insert the one-time token, and this will allow you to reset your password. After you reset your password, for some platforms, a few minutes will be required before the information is propagated to all the platforms, and you will be able to log in with the new credentials. The EMA Account Management platform is sending emails from an email address that is register at ema.europa.eu. So please make sure that emails from this platform are not going to your spam folder, or that you have no automated rules to put them in a folder that you don't monitor, because emails that are coming from this platform often require an action on your side. After you get an EMA account, we need to keep in mind that we try to keep the list of accounts that we have in our system clean. So after a period of inactivity of 6 months, your account will be disabled. And if the account is still not used for another 6 months, so after 1 year, then account is deleted and all the roles are removed. Before we disable your account and before we delete it, we will send you a notification. So 2 weeks, 1 week, and 1 day before we disable your account, you will receive a notification that your account has been disabled. If you want to re-enable it, then you just need to click on the forgot password. By resetting your password, your account will be reactivated, and then you will be able to access your account again. If you want to change your details, like your name, surname, and email address, then you need to open a ticket in our service desk, going to support.ema.europa.eu. Instead, if your company has changed your domain, so if your email address changed for all the employees of a company and you want us to update a set of users in our system, that is another request that we ask you to put in our service desk, so that we can do it in bulk and we can have information that are updated for the whole organization. So let's see how the self-registration works. Before going to the questions, let me jump back to the platform. So this is the home page where you can find all the different functionalities that we will see today through the presentation. As you will see, the first one is the self-registration. So if you click here, a new page will be open and will show the self-registration page. As a demo, always things can go wrong. Hopefully everything is working today. So what the system will ask you is, of course, to provide details about yourself. So we'll ask you for your name, surname, and then we'll ask you to set up a password. You will have to provide your user agreement to our privacy statement and the system security principle and responsibilities. And then you will need to pass the CAPTCHA. After you complete the first step, then a code will be sent to the email address that you have provided. And you need to put the code that you received. The code is valid for half an hour, and in this page, you also have the account ID that is being created for you. After the account is created, you will receive a confirmation email. Sometimes this could take a few minutes. So if you don't receive the confirmation email immediately, don't worry. The system could take some time. When you receive the confirmation email, then your account is ready to be used. Most of the time, the process is almost immediate. So in this case, I'm able to log in with the account that I just created. So we have briefly seen the self-registration and the life cycle. What we always recommend is, when you self-register, is to use your professional, personal, email address. What we mean by that? If you are representing an organization, it's easier for everybody, for the EMA and for the people of your organization, to identify clearly that you belong to that organization by your email domain. If you instead you are using a generic email address or a private email address like Gmail and Yahoo, it's really difficult to understand that you belong to a specific organization. Of course, we understand that we have really small companies or even individual companies that will not have a company email address, but if you have, please use that email address. Then if your email domain is changing, as we said, please open a ticket to the service desk so that we can update your domain. Another thing that we are always discourage is the use of generic accounts. Generic accounts are accounts that are not easily identifiable or easy to link to a specific person. So they don't connect, they don't have like the name and surname of the person in the email address. Why we discourage the use of non-personal account or generic account? Because it's a bad practice from a security point of view. Because generally there is more than one person behind these accounts, so this means that passwords needs to be shared. It's difficult to manage this kind of password if someone is leaving the company. And on the other side, with the introduction of MFA that will come to most or hopefully to all our systems, it will be even more difficult to manage. Another thing that we always discourage is that if you are leaving your company and you are moving to a new company that still needs to interact with the EMA, then please don't ask to change your email address. Instead, if you want, you can ask your old account to be disabled, or you can leave your account to expire after 6 months, but please create a new account. In terms of changes, last year we removed the security questions because we don't believe they are a valid security measure to make sure that an account is secure. And we introduced a new catchpad that is more secure. So what happened next? After you get an EMA account, you can start requesting access. And how this process works. The first thing for most of the systems is to have an organization registered in OMS. I think there have been a few webinars about this in the last days. So to register an organization in OMS, you can do this directly in OMS by submitting a change request. But right now you can do it also directly from EMA Account Management. We will see this during the demo. After your organization is available and is registered, then you can request access on behalf of that organization. And the first user of an organization is what we call a user administrator. And for OMS specifically, this is called super user. So the user administrator of an organization, the first time is requesting access for an organization is validated by the EMA. And after that, that person becomes responsible to approve all other users that are accessing for that specific organization for that specific application. So it's up to that user to validate who can access and to monitor the users that are accessing data on behalf of that specific organization. So as we said, to request a new organization, this is available in OMS, in our organization management system. You need to search for an organization first to make sure that the organization is not registered yet in our system. And after you perform the search, then the button to request a new organization will be made available. At the same time, we have this functionality now available from EMA Account Management. So if you search for an organization and you don't see it available in EMA Account Management, Then you can click on the button they say that to request a new organization, and you will have a similar screen to the one that you have in OMS, where you will need to provide information about the organization that you want us to register. In terms of documentation that you need to attach when you request an organization to be registered, there are a set of documents that are mandatory. So please check on the OMS portal the process to request a new organization to be registered, and make sure that all the mandatory documents are available for us to validate. When an organization is requested to be registered, it can take up to 10 working days before the organization is registered, and you will receive a notification after that is made available. When the organization is available, then you will also receive, if you have made this request from EMA Account Management, you will receive also a direct link to continue your access request. And as the first user of an organization, you will be asked to provide what we call a proof of affiliation. And in this proof of affiliation, that is a form that you need to compile and sign, you need to provide information about the user that is requesting the access. And then this form needs to be signed by someone else. And generally, we ask to sign the form digitally or physically from a person that is recognizable for that organization. So that is easy to publicly verify that that person has the power to represent that organization. You can do this for multiple organizations, of course, if they fall under the same umbrella. And you can do this for multiple applications. So if you request, in the same request, you request access to multiple applications, you can provide the form for multiple application and multiple organization. As we said during the self-registration, what will help us validate this request is the use of a business email address. So if the domain is not Yahoo or Gmail or any other generic provider, will help us validate that you are really working for that company. Otherwise, we will need to perform further checks and the request can take longer. In terms of organization management, we will see that we have a special role that is called external organization administrator. And this can reduce the number of administrators or super users that you need to have in your organization. And more details are available here. So as we said, we validate the first super user or user administrator of an organization. But then if you have an external organization administrator, that user or that set of users can approve access for all other systems. So if you are requesting access for SPOR, for IRIS, then all these requests will go to the external organization administrator. But if you appoint a specific user administrator per application, if you have a SPOR industry super user, then the request to access a SPOR industry user will not go to the external organization administrator, but will go to the industry super user. So the external organization administrator is an optional role that allows you to avoid appointing other super users for the same organization. When we talk about third-party providers, so we have companies that are accessing on behalf of other company. This is of course allowed, but when you are submitting, if the other company is submitting a request to become a user administrator or a super user, and this request needs to be validated by the EMA, as we said before, what would help is if the domain of the email address that you are using is the same of the company that you are requesting access for. If that is not possible, please make it clear in the attachment that you are providing so that we can evaluate your request properly. Another suggestion would be that the first, at least a user of your organization is available as super user, and then access to third party is provided by this user. So you are always in control of the users that are accessing your data that we store in EMA systems. Let's now have a look specifically at the SPOR roles. The basic access to SPOR is granted to everybody. So if you navigate to the spor.ema.europa.eu portal, you can navigate data without the need to have a specific EMA account. And what you can do, you can only access public data, and specifically you can view and search referentials and organizations. Then when you are self-registering, so when you get an EMA account, you get what we call an affiliated user. This is assigned by default to all users. With this, you can log in into the SPOR platform. You can do what a guest user can do, so you can search for public data, but you can also download and export this data. And on top of that, if you need to register an organization, you can submit a change request. Then we have roles that are specifically for industry and are industry user and super user. These roles are always affiliated to an organization. So you can be an industry user or a super user for a specific OMS organization. When you are requesting access, you will need to select the organization for which you want to be an industry user or super user. And these roles allows you to do what an unaffiliated user can do. And then the super user can also revoke access or grant access for other users to access on behalf of the organization. For national competent authorities, we have further roles. So we have the translator that on top of what an industry user or super user can do, can also perform translations for terms that are in RMS. And now let's have a look at how we can request access in our system. So I'll go back in EMA Account Management. This is our test environment. So disclaimer, potentially you will be able to see roles or features that are not already published yet in production. Actually, I will use an account that is called Carlo. This is the page that you will see after you log in into the platform. And what you can do is you can search for an organization. This will redirect you to OMS, or you can request access for an organization. So when you request access for an organization, you will have a form where you will need to specify at least one country that you want to look for and an organization name. So if we look for the Netherlands, and we look for the test medicine company, then we will see that the system is returning the specific organization. At this point in time, we can select one or multiple organizations. So even if the system is displaying location, when you request access, you are always requesting access on behalf of an organization. So if you see multiple rows with the same organization ID, you can just click one. And if you want to request access to multiple organizations, you can select multiple organization. At the same time, you can extend the request and make it for different countries. So if your aim is to request access to different countries, organizations that are in different countries, then you can do that. What happens if the organization you are looking for is not registered in OMS yet? Then you can click this button And this will allow you to provide all the information that we require in order to register an organization. So you will need to provide a justification, optionally a contact form. The contact email will be the email from the account that you are using so that you can receive notification when the organization is registered. You will be able to upload documentation about the registration that you are requesting. You will need to provide the organization name and you will need to select the organization type. And then you will need to provide information about the location. And if you have information about the DANCE ID or the GS1 ID, anything that can help us validate the organization, that is welcome and you can submit. So everything that you put in this form, if the organization is approved to be registered, will become public information. Okay, so this is important and this is a disclaimer that you need to tick before you continue. So what will happen if I submit this is that a change request will be created in OMS. And that change request will take some time so we can monitor it. And what we can do is we can check again here from the system the different organization that the different change requests that we have submitted. What will happen next is that if you create a change request and the change request is approved, you will receive an email from the system saying that your organization has been registered. And this email address that will look like this will give you a direct link that you can follow to directly continue your access request. So if I click on that specific link, this will bring me directly to the step where I select the organization that was registered in OMS and where I'm able to request access. So now I can search for the different role that I want to request access for. And if I want to be a sport industry super user, then I can select the role. As we said, the first thing is always to appoint a user administrator. So you can see the roles that are user administrator in this column. So what happened? This organization has just been registered. There is no user administrator. What happened if I try to request the sport industry user? The system will check that there is no user administrator and will ask you to select also a sport industry super user. So if I do this, then I will be able to progress. And as a first super user, as we said, I will need to provide a template. So I can browse the template, I can download the affiliation letter, I can compile it, and then after it's signed, I can attach it. And after this, the request is submitted and I can monitor its status. So at this point in time, I can see that I request access as a sport industry super user for the test medicine company. And this is waiting on EMA super user approval. So I can see here that this request is waiting for the EMA to approve. So what we've seen is how to request access in the system. So in terms of do and don'ts, as we said, the affiliation letter is right now the mean that we use to validate that a person is allowed to represent a specific company. So make sure that the information that we request to compile are clearly inserted. and that letter is signed by a different person from the one requesting access. The other advice that we always give is to give at least the super user role or the user administrator role to more than one person. Because if one person is not available at the specific time, then all the other super administrator can take over and approve access. And even if a person is leaving the company, then the other user administrators will be able to continue their work. So in terms of changes, we've seen that we have a new access request workflow. We added the possibility to request new organization and also the possibility to request multiple change requests is now available even if you are a sport unaffiliated user. In the past, when you were getting your EMA account, it was only possible to request one OMS change request, so one registration for organization. Right now, even within an affiliated role, you can request multiple. So after you request access, you will be able, as a user administrator or super user, to manage access. So we'll see how you can approve access, how you can remove and see the list of users of an organization. When you are a user administrator, you will receive notification if someone else is requesting access to access the system, the EMA system, on behalf of that specific organization. So what will happen is that you will receive a notification via email, but also when you log in into the platform, you will have a list of pending approvals that are actions that you will need to fulfill. The form will look like that. So you will have a thumb up and thumb down and information about the user that is requesting access. Specifically, you will see the user ID, the name, the surname, and the email address. And this is why we always stress the importance of the email address, because it's the first field that is giving you information about a specific user. And then from this screen, you are able to approve and deny access for a specific user. As a user administrator, this is not the only notification that you receive. We've seen at the beginning that your account can be disabled due to inactivity, but can also be enabled. And what happens when you request your account to be enabled via forgot password is that if you have roles in behalf of an organization, the user administrators will receive a notification that access has been granted again for these users. And this is to make sure that, again, the user that is reactivating this account is still a valid user for that specific organization. The other point is that when you have multiple user administrator, any of them can approve a request. So there is the chance that you will receive a notification, but then someone else already took an action. On this case, again, everything is tracked and we can see the detail of who approved what. But when you have multiple user administrators, multiple super users, this can happen. In terms of how to list and remove access, any single user can go to the manage access functionality that now has been around for a long time and can see the access that they have for their own account. But then if you are a user administrator, you can also see, export, and remove access for all other users that are accessing data on behalf of your company. There was a form in the past to do this where you have to select the specific organization and see the specific user, but now again it's a table where you can easily navigate all the users of your organization and you can revoke access. Another topic is what happens if the user administrator or super user of a specific company is leaving, or if he already left the company and is not available anymore. In this case, we will need to replace this user administrator. And this is why we always advise to have more than one, because in that case, the other user administrator can take over. But if there is a unique one and that person is not available anymore, then you need to open a ticket in our service desk. And this is a procedure where our service desk will validate that that person effectively has left the company and is not available anymore. So it will take a little bit more. So it can take up to 5 working days to switch a user administrator. But as we said, please make sure that you always have more than one. Another functionality that we have in the system is what we call access reviews or access certification. So here we have an example for ARIS. This is not applicable yet to SPOR, but as a user administrator, you can have received this for ARIS or for ultravigilance. Generally, every 6 months for access that is sensitive, we request access to be reviewed. And in this case, you will receive still already another email notification from our system. And then you will see a screen like this where you still have a thumb up and tap down to confirm that the access is still needed, or to click that access is not needed anymore and should be revoked. Be aware that if you don't take any action here and no decision is taken, at the end of the access review, so after 1 month, access will be revoked automatically. Because when we send an access review, we want to make sure that access is explicitly reviewed. So we want to make sure that access is confirmed by an action. And now let's see in our system how the access request works. Okay. So let's go back to Carlo account. I've now requested to be a SPOR industry super user, and I can see that the request is now complete. So someone has approved the request, and I can see that the request is pending, but this is again just a verification from the system. What you should always look at is the status here. So if we want to look how an access request look like, we had set up one for this specific user, and we can see that we have an access review in active phase. And we can see this also here. So we can see that there is something that is requiring our attention, and there is an access review. Specifically for this user, we asked the super user of the test medicine company to verify access. And I can see that Carlo has access to this company. So in this case, if I have multiple users that are accessing, I will see multiple rows, one for each user. And for each one, I will need to explicitly say if I want to revoke or approve. Of course, when I click revoke, the access is not removed immediately, but I will have to save the decision. And the same for the approval. So in this case, Carlos still needs to have access. He's still a user of this company, and I want to retain his access. So when we receive this kind of access review, I click save, and then I sign off my decision. And this is when I say that all the items that were available to be certified, to be reviewed, are now completed, and there is no need anymore for me to take any action. So I sign off my decision, and the access certification is not available anymore. I can still see in my archive the access that I've taken, but the access review is not available anymore here. There could be also the case where an access review that is completed is completely removed also from the archive due to performance reasons. So for big access review, this happens, and you always have the latest one available. Now, as Carlo, I will log out and I will jump in the system with another account that is called John. I will do the same process as before. Actually, John is really good and he knows the organization ID of his company. And then he selects the organization he's looking for and he wants to request access as per industry user. In this case, as we already have a user administrator that is Carlo, that is the sport super user for that specific organization, there is no need to attach further documentation. And the user can see that his request is pending and is actually pending for the organization approval. So we don't see EMA here anymore. We can see that the request is pending on someone else. From a user perspective, we will not show who is the person that is waiting to approve. Because again, we don't know if this request is legitimate, so we will not show this information. So the work from John is finished. And now I will log in again with Carlo. And Carlo, as a super user, has received an email notification that there is a pending approval. We can see here from the bell, again, that we have something that we need to do, but we have also our pending approval here. In this case, I can see that the account is requesting access and I can approve the request. After I approve a request, still it could take some time until the user is able to access the system. And on the other side, it can also take some time until the user is available to be seen under the manage access. So as a super user, if I go under the manage access, I will be able to see not only my account, so everything that is related to me, but I will also be able to see all other users that are accessing on behalf of the company for which I am a user administrator. In this case, I'm a user administrator for Aris and for Sport, and I can see that Carlo and John has also access to this company as Sport industry user. And at any time, I can go here and export this information as an Excel or a CSV, or I can click here and say, Carlo left the company yesterday actually, and I want to revoke his access. So he's not able to access anymore on behalf of the test medicine company. So I can click here and revoke his access. Sometimes it takes a few minutes until this request is available, but then I will be able again to see that this request to remove access has been put in the system. For request to remove access, again, there is no approval required, and any user can do it for its own access, but as a super user, you can do it also for the other users of your company. And this is about how to manage access, so how to approve, how to view and revoke access, and how to certify access. So what we have done is we revamped the role administrator page, and what we hopefully release by the end of the month is the notification of merged organization. What does it mean? in OMS, there is a process to merge organization. This can happen due to technical reason because two organizations were registered for the same entity, or could happen because there is an actual business merge. So a company is acquiring another. And when this happens, only one organization will survive in OMS. The other organization will be set to inactive. And when this happens, in terms of access, we need to review who should have access. So what we will do is when we intercept that two companies have been merged, we will send a notification to the different user administrator to take action. In terms of do and don'ts, as a user administrator, and this is one of the principles that we clearly state in our security principle that you are accepting when you are getting an EMA account, you are responsible and accountable to review the users of your own organization. As a EMA, we have no visibility and no power to say that a user should have access to a specific organization. It's the responsibility of a super user or a user administrator to make sure that access on behalf of his organization is maintained up to date. And as we said before, please do not ignore notifications that are coming from register@ema.europa.eu. As we've seen for access certification, if no action is taken, access can be revoked and users will not be able anymore to access on behalf of your organization. So right now we focused on EMA account management, but as we said at the beginning, EMA account management is just a gateway for other EMA services. So after you get an EMA account, after your access has been approved and you are validated to access a specific system, then the next step that you want to do is to log in into these systems. And for most of our systems, now we are changing to enforce multi-factor authentication. And this is something that will be applied also in the future to SPOR and to EMA account management as well. But not least, when you are finished using EMA system, don't forget to log out because this is also important as well. So in terms of login, we mainly have two options right now. The option to which all our applications will converge in the future is to have a modern authentication. In this case, to authenticate, you will need to provide a username in the format of your user ID, and then you will need to add a suffix at id.ema.europa.eu. So just putting your username in this form will not be enough. And after that, you will be asked for a password. And after that, you will be asked to satisfy multi-factor authentication. Other systems like SPOR and EMA account management, they still offer an authentication that is solely based on username and password. In this case, the suffix at id.ema.europa.eu is not needed, and you will not be prompt for multi-factor authentication. So what happens if your username, you forgot your username or you are not able to use your password? The first thing to do is always to use the forgot password capabilities that are available in EMA account management to reset your password. If it's the first time that you see this screen above, and you are not able to use the password that is valid for other systems, again, please use the forgot password, and that will synchronize your password across all EMA systems. In terms of multi-factor authentication, again, this is not applicable to SPOR yet, but it will be in the future. The first time you log in with what we call modern authentication, we will be asked to set up multi-factor authentication. And what is multi-factor? Is adding a second factor on top of something you know, that is the password. So, and for this, we need to satisfy one of the other two criteria that are something you are, like your fingerprint, your face, your eye, any biometric that can identify you as a person, or something that you have, like a mobile phone, a security key, or a code generator, an office phone, anything that is in your only possession. So you will be asked to satisfy one of these two to be able to access. What we recommend is to always use the authenticator because it's the most secure way of authenticating. It's working online and offline, and is offering the best experience. What you can do is, of course, you can, if you set up your MFA, you can review your MFA settings, so you can change them on your own at any time. And if you need further guidance on errors or how to set up multi-factor authentication, we have them available on the EMA Account Management page. The other thing is, after you have finished, a good practice is always to log out. So if you have finished use some of the EMA service, then you will be able to log out from them. In terms of modern authentication, we have what we call single sign-on. So if you are logged in into a system and you jump into another system that already is using modern authentication, then you will not be required to provide again your username and password and multi-factor authentication. But this works also when you're logging out. So if you are doing what we call a single sign-out, then you will be signed out for all other EMA applications that are using modern authentication. This is still different for OMS and EMA Account Management, so you will need to log out by each system that you use. And most of our EMA systems also use what we call a session timeout. So if you are logged in but you're not doing anything in the system, then your session will expire and you will be automatically logged out. So in terms of changes, you will see that we have more and more applications that are using modern authentication. So the screen that we have seen before will be available to more and more applications. We migrated the CTIS, Ultra Vigilance, and we will keep migrating applications until all of them are using the modern authentication features. So if you have multi-factor authentication, this is another thing that you need to review regularly. And as all other things, try always to have a backup. So if you are able to register more than one second factor, like an authenticator app on different phones, or an authenticator app and an SMS or a voice call, that will allow you to enter your account even if you lose one of the other factors. And you will then be able to reset them, review them, and update them. In terms of don'ts, of course, do not share your credentials with anybody. So your password is your password. From EMA, nobody will ever ask you to pass the password to us. Even if you open a ticket and your account is not working, please don't put the password in the ticket. If we need to have a session with you, we will ask to have a meeting and where you will be able to share your screen and show the error that you are getting. And when we advise to do not share your credentials, even with your colleagues, again, we always advise against shared accounts because they are really difficult to manage. And as soon as you start sharing, you lose control of that information. So what happened with multi-factor authentication and in general with passwords? If you are not able to log in, if you are stuck, because again, you only have one multi-factor authentication method and you are not able to log in anymore, and you cannot even access the service desk because even the service desk now is requiring multi-factor authentication, then you can still have a chance to log in into our system. So you can request by email, by sending an email to our service desk platform to reset your MFA methods. Of course, the email must come from the email address from which the account is registered from, and you will need to specify the user ID that you want to unlock. Now let's see some numbers. So these are the numbers of SPOR users that we have in our system and the statistics about requests that we have in EMA Account Management. So we can clearly see, of course, that we have more industry users than NCA users due to different sides of the organization that they represent. And we have also a good number of users that are using the SPOR API on behalf of different organizations. In terms of requests, if we look at the requests that are evaluated by the EMA for the first super user, we have around 300 requests per month in SPOR. And the wait for this request is, again, less than a day. We have now an integration with the ServiceNow platform, that is our service desk platform, where whenever you request this access, a ticket will be opened on your behalf. So if the service desk agent that is validating your request needs clarification or needs more documentation to be submitted, then it will contact you via email. So you will receive further notification if documentation is required. And this allowed us to increase the approval rate, because again, then you are not forced to submit a new request, and the service desk agent can interact with you in this way. From OMS perspective, we see that users that are requesting organization directly from the identity and access management platform are doing this more or less more than 100 times per month, and the approval rate that is in line with other requests that are directly in OMS is about the 60%. For all other roles that are requested and are not validated by EMA, we have around 200 requests per month that are validated by the different super users, so the SPOR industry super user and the NCA super user of the organization. And the wait is different. For industries, a little bit more, is 1.5 days, and for competent authorities or NCAs is less than 1 day. And the approval rate is quite high, is 95%. So what is coming next? We are working in removing the CACHPA and to make it more transparent for users. Furthermore, we want this to be applicable not only to the registration page, but to most of the main functionalities like forgot password, forgot username, login, requesting access. We don't want strange interactions with our platform. And from the user perspective, we see no impact on this because this will be completely transparent for users. As you know, we are still switching application to modern authentication that requires multi-factor authentication. So if it's the first time that you use the new login screen and your password is not working, what you can do is to reset your password, and that will align the password for all EMA platforms. EMA Account Management will switch as well to modern authentication by the end of this year, and we plan to do SPOR next year, but we don't have a timeline yet. In terms of functionalities that we are looking at, what we are really interested in is to get rid of username and passwords. So by the end of this year, we want to provide you the option to try a new authentication experience that will only work with the platforms that are using modern authentication, not for SPOR yet. What will happen is that instead of using your user ID with the suffix id.ema.robo.u, you will be able to log in with your email address. And then after that, or you will receive a code on your email address, or you will be redirected to your own authentication page. So we plan to do this as an opt-in mechanism, so each user can decide if they want to use this mechanism or not. And then what we are looking at is also how we can integrate with the European digital wallet and other European common frameworks that we have for identity and access management. Because as a European agency, we want to offer services to European citizens, and we want to make sure that they are able to access those with credentials that they are already using for other European services. But this is again something that is more long-term, and we will communicate on due time. So quiz time. If you didn't do yet, please go to Slido and you will be able to start your quiz, and we will check if the knowledge that we tried to pass during this webinar has been somehow absorbed, hopefully. So we will wait 1 or 2 minutes to make sure that we have a good number of people join the quiz. And then after the quiz, we will start looking at the Q&A. Okay, we are ready. The first question is about registering. So which email address you should use? Okay, good. I think that's a really good result. So of course you need to use an email that is a business email address, so the domain is clearly identifiable, and that allows us to identify you as a person. So in this case, john.smith@company.com is the right answer. The other two, the first one again is using a domain that is not recognizable for other companies, so it could be really generic, and shared accounts if can be avoided. That would be a really good practice. Let's move to the next one. So if you want to request access, do you need to do it every time for every single organization, or can you do it for multiple organizations? Okay, good result again. Of course, you can request access to multiple organizations. There is, in EMA Account Management, there is no limit in terms of numbers for anything. So you can have as many users as you want representing your organization. You can have as many super users or user administrator as you want, and you can represent as many organizations as you want. So when you see numbers, no, there is no limitation. And again, you can use your account to represent multiple organizations. Of course, if that is your business case. So if your company has several legal entities and you want to represent all of them, then please do so. Of course, if there are specific special needs and you are like a third party helping different companies, then you may be requested to have different accounts. But again, there is no limitation. You can request access to multiple organizations. Next question. So if you are a user administrator, what you can do to see the list of users that are accessing on behalf of your organization and eventually revoking their access. And the answer is go to manage access in the EMA Account Management platform. So one of the principles that we use around the EMA Account Management platform is self-service. So we try to empower the users to do things in an autonomous way without EMA intervention. This is to reduce the time that you need to wait, but also, of course, the number of resources that we need to make available. So I'm glad that nobody put that we need to open a service desk ticket. The Spore role admin is still available, but it will be deprecated. And please use the new functionality because it will give you an overview of all users that have access on behalf of your organization in a simple way. And you are able to export this information and in Excel and do all your own checks. Next question. Good. So if you are locked out from your account and you are not able to log in into EMA platforms, we discussed about the forgot password functionality. But if you have multi-factor authentication that you cannot use anymore, as we said before, please send an email directly to servicenow@ema.europa.eu indicating your name, surname, and your unique username from the email address linked to that username. And then the service desk will help you reset your MFA. Last question. So if you are leaving your company and you are joining a new one, please create a new account. This again is a good practice. It will help us keep the different systems tidy, and we will not change your email address if you are moving to a new company. This is again to make sure that you are not getting access to data that you should not have access anymore. When we will move to a different form of authentication where the email address will be involved, again, this will be enforced also on authentication. But right now, it's a good practice that if you are leaving your company and you still need to use EMA services, then you open a new account. Still, as a user administrator, you need to make sure that the users that are accessing on behalf of your organization are still valid. So congratulations, I can see a lot of 100%. That's good. Means that the messages that we passed during the meeting have been acknowledged. So I will jump now to the Q&A so that we can see which ones are the more relevant. The first one is there is a document for all the different roles. I believe that this question is about all the different platforms. Right now, we don't have, unfortunately, a single document. So each platform is maintaining their own document explaining the different roles and who should receive access. Of course, in terms of visibility, you always have the manage access. You can immediately see and revoke access. But right now, we don't have a single document that is providing this complete list of roles. What we have in the system is, of course, when you are requesting access, each role has a description. So that is already a sort of catalog that you can use to see who should have access on in your company for the different roles. But we can take this as a feedback and try to improve on this and have a single catalog for the roles where a good explanation of what the different roles can do can be centralized in a single place. The second question is, can a company have more than one admin role? Yes, of course. And you are encouraged to do this. Please have always more than one user. The only exception to this is in the Odra Vigilance platform, where only one responsible person per organization is allowed. But then we have the trusted deputy role that can approve and revoke access of other users. So you still have the option to have multiple users. Specifically for sport, again, you can have and you are encouraged to have multiple users. The other question is why we encourage to register a new account. And this is again as a good practice because the access that you have for your company, for the company you are leaving, then should be removed. And even if whenever you change your email address, the user administrators are receiving a notification, we see that this is not happening really often. So most of the time, if you are moving to a new company and your email address is updated, you are retaining access to data that should not have access anymore. And this is why starting with a brand new account is the option to go. In terms of merging organization, that's a different story. So as we said before, if you are changing your email domain due to different reasons, because your company has gone through a rebranding and the name slightly changed, if there is a merge and so on, then open a service test ticket. But then we will do that for all the users in the company. So we will not tackle individual cases. So the access review that we are doing, the next question is that there is an access review for Hydra Vigilance twice a year. And we are doing this also for IRIS. What we are trying to do is to do it for the platforms that are giving access to sensitive data and that we can fully manage in EMA Account Management. There are other platforms like CTS where there is an hybrid role model where most of the roles are available only in the CTS platform. And in that case, it's more difficult. But we are trying to go from a data point of view. So we are tackling the applications that are providing access to most sensitive data first. So that is the rationale that we are using. So we have the plan to introducing this as much as we can, but we also don't want to create a certification burnout where user administrators are requesting twice a year to certify hundreds of users for several applications. So we will try to rationalize this. Yeah, the other question I think I already answered about registering a new account. And also this one. So yes, please have more than one admin role or super user. And so for PMS, the access model is ongoing, the access model definition. So I cannot give you an answer yet on how it will look like. From what we are discussing, there will probably be a PMS role. But again, please don't take this as 100% of what will happen in the future. It's something that we are still discussing internally and externally with the different stakeholders to have the more effective way to manage product information into the different systems. So this is something that we don't have. So when another user administrator has approved access, the others are not receiving a notification. I can note it down. So we can think about this and we can prioritize this change. But right now, this is not happening out of the box. The next question is more an OMS question. So I don't know if any colleague can take it or maybe we can answer it later. Because for, again, the EMA account management, you are always getting access on behalf of specific organization. So the location ID is shown in the system, but for us is not super relevant. Another question that I see is upvoted is if there is a super user admin role that can grant and revoke access for all role. Yes, this is the external organization administrator can view all the users of your organization, but not the ones for UDRA vigilance. For UDRA vigilance, again, the QPPV and the trusted deputies are the person responsible to do this, but for the other application, CTIS, IRIS, SPOR, and so on, that person can view all the roles. In terms of approval, as we've seen during the slides presentation, the external organization administrator only receive approval only if there is no specific administrator for a specific organization. So if you have a sport super user, then that external organization administrator will not receive the approval request. That will go to the sport super user. If you don't have the sport super user, then it will go to the external organization administrator. And this is to give flexibility because again, we deal with big companies, small companies, and we need to gather different use cases. So it could happen that when you are requesting access, you are prompted to set up a new password. And this is because not all our applications are using what we call single sign-on. And some applications will require in the backend something that you will see to create an account on the local identity store of the different application. And this is why we are asking to put the password again, so that the new password will be created. We never extract password from any system. The password are encrypted, so we cannot read the password that you have and put it in a new system. The only way that we have to do this is to ask you to put the password again. Okay, then we have a quite a specific question. So I believe this is coming from third-party provider, so that work for another company. And again, if you are still entitled to be the QPPV of that company, you can eventually change the email address. But again, if this is really a case that is a little bit on that area that are a little bit nuanced, so please open a service desk ticket and our colleagues will address your query. So for generic accounts, again, from a security perspective, having a generic account means that you have a password that is shared between different individuals. And when one of these individuals is leaving the company, potentially still knows that password. So what we recommend if you are concerned about missing notification is implementing forwarding rules. So that whenever you receive a notification from a specific email address, like register@ema.europa.eu, you can forward that to a generic email address in your company. But that again will not mean that you have one single password for everything, so you can take action. And again, we always advise to have more than one person as a user administrator or super user. So if you follow this best practice, then you will be able to overcome these situations where the only person that can take an action is on holiday and you still have a backup that can perform an action. The next question is about what industry is. This is a little bit dependent on the system we are talking about. But generally, the big distinction that we have, the big segregation that we have is between national competent authorities or competent authorities, so that are the different organizations in the different member states or even outside Europe that are collaborating with us, and all other type of organization. So most of the time academia fall into the industry category. So industry is a big bucket for everything that is not a competent authority. So if you are not a governmental or an organization that is strictly collaborating with EMA to assess medicines, to perform pharmacovigilance or any other kind of activity, then you are probably following into the industry category. So the next question is still about PMS, I believe, where you want to grant access at product level. So this is a requirement that is in our catalog, but still we don't have 100% clarity on how we are going to address this and if this will be possible immediately on the go live of PMS. So this is something that we still are looking at, but I don't have an answer yet for this. Right now, from what I see, is that again the access will be on organization basis, at least from the beginning, and then we will eventually work on improvements later on. So for generic email address, I think we discussed this. And this is a good question. So where super user will find all the access requests that are granted. When you approve access, then you will have also access if you go to my work items, you will have access to the archive of decision that you have taken. So you will find this here. So again, if you go, every approval is a work item in the platform. So if you go to My Work, Work Items, and then you go to the archive, then you can see all the decisions that you have taken. The other option, of course, is to just see the current picture of users accessing, and that is in Manage Access. So this is another important question, and this is why we are moving to a model where you will have authentication based on your email address. So as soon as you are leaving that company, then in theory you should not be able to authenticate anymore. So if you are leaving your company and your account is not being disabled and the user administrator of your company is not taking any action, then potentially you are still able to see access of your old company. Yes, this is a big risk that we have in our systems right now. And we can only rely on the work of the super users and user administrator to remove access in a timely manner. So access can be revoked at any time. So you don't need to wait for an access certification or an access review. An access review, it's only an incentive to do that work on a programmatic way. But anytime a person is leaving your company, a person that is dealing with the EMA is leaving your company, then you should be proactive and remove that access. We have no visibility on this. There is no, right now, in technology-wise, there is no option for us to see this information. The best we can do, and this is something that we are working on, is to switch to email authentication so that your account will be blocked. But then still is the user administrator responsibility to keep the list of users up to date. I'll take the last question that is about, actually we have just two. So an administrator of a company leaves the company and is the only one, then a service desk ticket will be needed in order to set up a new user administrator. So the service desk can verify that that person has left the company and appoint a new one. And the last question is an hijack of the session because it's for Udra Vigilance. If you have a QPP role, you should be able to access everything you need in Udra Vigilance system. And I believe, but I don't remember by heart, I'm sorry about that, that also there to be access is included. So as a QPPV, you will have full access to pharmacovigilance data. And that's the last question. So let's go back to the presentation for the closing part. So one message that I want to pass is that if you go to register.ema.robo.eu, you have a list of documentation and reference to other systems documentation, presentation, frequently asked question that you can use if you have any doubt. So that is a material that you can consume anytime. Here we have again a link to the different quick links to the different pages that are providing this documentation. So please, if you have any doubt and you want to see how the platform works, of course you can also check again this webinar, but you can also go to these pages, and these are up to date and we keep them up to date. So this webinar maybe in 6 months will become old because we will introduce new functionalities or we will update these pages, and those are again the way to go when you have any doubt. And the takeaways that I want to give you for this session is that we, from access perspective, so the way that we manage access at EMA for external users is tightly linked to organization. And this is why we work in improving the relationship between the EMA account management system and SPOR. So to make sure that the different platforms work together in a seamless way for the user. with this in mind, we introduce the possibility to change requests directly from EMA Account Management when you are requesting access. And this again allows you to do not jump from a system to another when you are the first user of an organization. We had many questions, and I tried to stress the concept of responsibility. So we provide access to EMA services, but it's really important that each user administrator are using this in a responsible way, and they are contributing in keep access clean, and that they remove access when it's not needed anymore. We don't have visibility. We are dealing with thousands of organizations, so we don't have this visibility, and we can make sure that this is done properly only with your support. And this is one of the principles that we are following for the platform. We are trying to give you all the self-service capabilities that you can do this at any time with your own pace, but please make sure that you take time to do also this activity. So as I said, further information can be found in our homepage, and thank you everybody for participating to this webinar. And I look forward for your feedback, so don't go away yet, because in Slido you will be able to provide feedback for this webinar. So please fill in the survey that is available right now. So everybody for participating and for the useful questions and feedback that you provided. We leave the feedback survey open until noon, so until 12 o'clock, and we will stop the broadcasting now. Thank you again.